And we just grew really fast, and then what happened was that we turned Virtual Mall, which was the electronic. Once the e-commerce thing really kicked in, so Amazon was started in '95, and they really started growing in '96. Everybody wanted their own site, so we took the technology that was powering the online malls and we made it into the back-end technology.
Like that was
VirtuFlex.
Wow.
And then we raised $1 million to like grow that, and then '98. Then
it's basically an e-commerce platform.
Yeah, it became an e-commerce platform.
Right, and so you raised money there.
Raised money, and then we hired. We had to hire parental supervision. Basically, we were like a bunch of kids. So it was like we hired Chris Heidelberger as our CEO.
Right.
And so once we did that, then we raised $6.5 million, then another $13.5, and then $27.5, and then the company was acquired by a public company in 2000, just before everything.
Congrats. That's
fell
awesome.
apart.
Yeah, that's incredible. So you went through that phase of raising money and everything like that. That's
during the crazy dot-com.
And so during the dot-com era, and things have a lot's changed, but there's some things that are still similar. You need good business fundamentals, and you need to have a business that has big growth potential, right, Sam? I mean, you're a member at the Denman Center for Angels. You see a lot of pitches. You've seen companies come and go. Tell us a little bit about what angel investing is and what you look for in a company that's going to be successful.
Sure. I mean, the thing is, there's the whole angel community and the whole entrepreneurship community is thriving. A lot of people want to start businesses, a lot of people have great ideas, and it really gets down to this thing I talk about. Are you betting on the horse or are you betting on the jockey? At the end of the day, I'm betting on the jockey. Sometimes what a company starts out to be is not how they finish. And this term you'll hear called pivoting. How do you pivot? How do you move? How do you stay alive? How do you bootstrap? Are you going to get up every day and work hard for me so that I know that my founders are giving it their best shot? And that's all I can ask as an angel investor, because that's why they call us an angel. Because you need an angel to come down and help you. And I put my money, I write the check. All I want from that as an angel is for you to work hard every day and try your best. And if you fail and you've given me the best effort, then I can take that, and I understand that. I've recently invested in Brain Century. I invested in Greg Merrill's. It was his second company, and Greg had a nice exit on his first company. His second company failed, and I lost $65,000 in his second company. But I invested in his third company because Greg's a winner, and Greg's the kind of person I want to be behind. So at the end of the day, it's how you present yourself, how you deliver your message. Can I get excited about this relationship that we're going to end up being on in this journey? It's going to take 5 years or more to drag something across the finish line, which is that type of thought process is, I guess, how I evaluate. I'm looking at everything that you're doing. When you're up there presenting, how are you speaking? How do you present yourself? And that's how I'm evaluating everything, because there's the next, I'm interested in you, and then all of a sudden, I'm not interested in you anymore. I'm interested in you. Because that's the world that I'm in. I'm invested in a lot of companies, and at the end of the day, I invest in the jockey, and the company has to have value and have a scalable business model. At the end of the day, I'm investing in you. So.
Gotcha. That's great to hear, to kind of know from as entrepreneurs what you're looking for and what other angels or investors might be looking for. Sure. It's really important. Ron, when you were raising money, this was in the 90s. It was a different time, but the fundamentals were really the same, and you needed to have that core business philosophy and the hard work that Sam mentions. And what was your relationship like with the investors? How did that work in the beginning, and then how did it play out over time?
Well, that's really interesting, and I like the way that you put the whole angel investor idea, because most angel investors are really investing in people, because at the end of the day, for a lot of reasons, you can't really, there's a lot of things that get in the way of a business's success that you really can't control. So it's really about, how are the people that you're investing in, how are they going to deal with that stuff, right? So the early investors were great. They supported us. Once we started raising sort of the institutional rounds, Series A, Series B, Series C, we can get into that, then it was a little less about necessarily the people. So, so let me put it this way. What they had a fund, they're investing other people's money, one. They have other people that they need to be responsible to. Their fund has a mission, right? And they have control. And even if you're selling a stake in your company, which is what when you're raising money, you're basically selling a stake in your company. And you may look at it as like, okay, well, I sold 25% of my company for a $5 million investment or something like that. Okay, well, that makes the company worth $20 million, roughly, right? But that doesn't mean that they only have 25% control. The investors have a board seat. And once they have a board seat, they have control over hiring and firing decisions for the management team, which is why I said jokingly kind of that we need to hire parental supervision. It was more like, for them to invest in us, we need to give them confidence. And we need to bolster the team. And that's when I had to, as a founder, you go through this, I don't know, it's sort of a weird state. You have to do what's in the best interest of growing the business. You have to be smart about that. But a lot of founders have a hard time with this because it's like their baby, right? And even though they may still have an ownership stake, they don't want to give up the manage. You have to give up control. Yeah, and it becomes uncomfortable, and then you're not really in charge of all the decisions anymore, and then it's like you're seeing everything growing. It's like we went from 7 employees to 50 employees in the first, I don't know, 4 or 5 months that we were there when we were at CCAP, but we went from 50 employees to 250 employees. Right. In the next 12 months, we acquired 2 companies, right? That's when things got like, okay, I don't know what's happening. I walk into the company and be like, I don't know who you are.
There's 10 new people.
I'm assuming you're doing something important, but I don't, so it's kind of weird. It became sort of dissociative a little bit. So it's kind of like raising money I think is a double-edged sword. I mean, you need the money. The money is sort of the lifeblood of what makes companies work. If you're not getting it from your customers, which I highly recommend is the primary source of revenue, and then you get it from someone else, well, you're serving another master, and you just have to understand that venture capital is a business, and they have a business to run.
That's interesting. Yeah, and by the way, this is a fireside chat, so if you guys have questions or you want some insight, raise your hand. Let's get some questions in. But guys, yeah, I mean that's all great insight, and I want to kind of zoom into our region here in particular, and get some more insight into what's going on here and what you guys are seeing with the companies, with the investment dollars, and things like that. Sam, you're in close touch with that. I mean, you see a lot of pitches. You know a lot of the investors in the area. What are some of the current trends that you're seeing from the business side and from the investment side for our region here? Let's say the Mid-Atlantic region.
Well, we're seeing cybersecurity is really being at the forefront. And we had a guy come into Dingman Angel's last pitch, and the guy said, if I sell this company for $100 million, then it's a failure. And I was like, well, excuse me, sir, wait a second. I've been in here for 5 years, and no one's ever came in here and said, if I sell my company for $100 million, that it's a failure. But that's the mentality. The whole cyberspace is really big. People are trying to figure it out, trying to raise capital for that. There's a lot of interest in that. There's a lot of money for that. InQtel and government agencies that fund that kind of stuff. That's a big thing. And then, really, a lot of the young people today is all based on sustainability. That's a big part of the companies that I'm seeing nowadays is something that's sustainable, something that can either grow food or something that's energy based, and all based on that trend. I'm seeing a lot of that as well.
That's good. Yeah. No, that's good insight. I mean, I've certainly noticed that as well, especially on the cybersecurity.
And the money runs to those the lead.
Yeah.
That lead path.
That's interesting. That's a good insight into where things are going in the future, where the money goes. That's
is that true, Ron? You think?
Absolutely. Yeah. I was having a huge conversation about this last night with the whole in Northern Virginia. In addition to Maryland, this region is very strong in that area because a lot of the research is coming out of a lot of the institutions here, the NSA and all that sort of stuff. But I don't want to dive too deep on cybersecurity here, but cybersecurity is poised to be a major area of boom. And I think if we play cards right here in our region, it could really help spur in a whole amount of entrepreneurial growth, not just for that industry, but for a bunch of related industries. And the reason being is that I guess the shortest way I can put it is that most companies are extremely vulnerable right now to any sort of attack. And the only companies that have actually prepared themselves in any sort of reasonably reliable way are banks, and maybe a few other institutions. But you take down Amazon or Rackspace, you take down 5,000 other companies with them, and you can take down communication networks, you can take down all that sort of stuff, and most companies are just not protected. And so there are a bunch of companies here in Maryland innovating this whole idea of protecting and doing all that. And this region, you can make an argument that if you were starting a cybersecurity company, Silicon Valley is the wrong place to start that company. All the stuff's happening here. So it's actually ironic that there's a little misdistribution of investment capital, but I would say that all this stuff should happen here. So just to piggyback on what else is strong here, there's a lot of stuff going on. The ed tech community here, education technology community here, and the health, of course, all the stuff going on with bioinformatics and health IT, electronic. There's a lot of strength here in this region for that as well. It's interesting that education technology is so strong. There's a few funds here that are only investing in ed tech companies. Vince Talbert's fund, as well as Frank Balzel, number 3's fund.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'd say there's a lot of things that are sort of unique in our community that I think if we sort of try to put some of our eggs in those baskets, I think we can grow this region's strength.
Yeah, I mean, and what do you guys think about the community here? I know from my perspective of being a startup founder over the last year or so, I've seen it change a lot just in the last year, and I've gotten a ton of support. But I know that things have changed over the last 5 years or so, and kind of where we're going, and comparatively to the other regions that are out there. What do you think, Sam?
Well, I mean, I think one of the issues that we have in this area is lack of exits. I mean, what Ron had mentioned is out in the valley, things are happening. People are selling their companies. Angels are making more money, so they're putting more money back into it. Like, I mean, I've been investing in some companies for one of my companies, CommuniClick, now for 6 years, and we're doing well, and we're getting there, and every year we're making more money, and we're surviving. We pivoted and all that, but I'm like, hey, what? I look at it like after 5 years, I need to know something that's going on. I'll give you 5 years, but after 5 years, I want to know whether I'm going to get a dividend, what's your plan. I want a quarterly shareholder letter from you. I don't want to have to pick up the phone and go, what's going on? What are you guys doing? It's 5 years now. 5 years is my timeline. Asked a couple of my ex-wives. 5 years. Hey, if something doesn't happen after that, I'm out. So, I mean, that's where we are, around here.
That's what makes me a visionary. Simple brain, solid.
I've been at Dingman Center. I've been at the Dingman Center Angels. I've been participating for 6 years now, and we haven't had an exit that we could celebrate, that we could go around and high five. Oh, you didn't want to get into that deal. Sorry. That's what all of us want. We want to be able to boast to our fellow angels and say, didn't I tell you? I told you that was going to be a winner. You didn't want to put your 25 grand in, and I just got a 10x return. Thank you. But that's what we need to happen.
So if you're not,
why isn't that?
There's just not enough transactional.
Is it East Coast mentality versus the West Coast?
I think so. The things that are having exits right now are like in certain markets that we just haven't really built a lot of strength, like for whatever reason. But yeah, part of it is that, this sort of piggybacks a little bit on that. Having started my first 2 companies in Boston and acquiring companies on the West Coast, the Boston ecosystem is a really tight ecosystem geographically, because it's very compact. Actually, when I say Boston, I was actually in Cambridge, but the people in Boston, they know when you say Boston, you mean Cambridge, Billerica, Bedford, whatever. I have to use the Boston accent: Bedford, Medford, Quincy, whatever. But here, it's like, when I moved here, I was surprised by a couple of things. One, I was surprised that people said, "Where'd you go to school?" I said, MIT. They're like, no, where'd you go to high school? I'm like, I wasn't expecting that. I honest to goodness was not expecting that. And I wasn't expecting, there have been some really, I think, weird conversations on various online groups where I'm like, okay, I'm going to run a Baltimore meetup in Towson. And they're like, Towson's not Baltimore. I'm like, what do you mean Towson's not Baltimore? Of course Towson's Baltimore. Like, nope. And we had this really interesting exec breakfast. We every once in a while we'll have these execs, and Paul Palmieri from Millennial Media came, and he said, and if you don't know Paul Palmieri, he built this company Millennial Media here in Baltimore, grew it very successful, and they had an exit. They went public, right, and in March of this past year, and he